If you thought that everything about Diddy and his so-called freak-off parties had already been uncovered, well, brace yourselves. According to Diddy's former assistant, Phil Pines, the stories we've heard so far are only a fraction of the truth. The real situation, he claims, is far worse than we could have ever imagined. Phil's explosive revelations involve a range of disturbing allegations, including claims that Diddy used to force him to help orchestrate these wild parties, known as Wild King's King, and that these events were not only frequent but also involved illegal substances and disturbing behavior. What's more, Phil has come forward with a mountain of evidence to back up his allegations, voice recordings, text messages, and other receipts that paint a very dark picture of Diddy's actions. Phil Pines worked as Diddy's assistant from 2019 to 2021, and during this time, he says he witnessed some deeply troubling events. He claims that Diddy would frequently instruct him to arrange these Wild Kings KN events, also known by some as freak-off parties, which were not just casual get-togethers but required significant planning. These events, according to Phil, were massive undertakings involving careful coordination before and after the parties. But the most disturbing part, they allegedly included the use of illegal substances and physical coercion, often resulting in significant harm to those involved. The intensity of these parties is hard to overstate. In fact, according to federal indictment documents that were released after Diddy's arrest, the scale of the so-called freak-offs was enormous. These events were described as involving the transportation of commercial workers across state lines and even internationally. Not only were these parties regular occurrences, but they also sometimes lasted for multiple days. The court documents further revealed that at these events, Diddy allegedly distributed controlled substances to the attendees to keep them compliant and obedient, sometimes without their knowledge. Disturbingly, it was also claimed that Diddy recorded videos of victims engaging in sexual acts with these commercial workers during the parties. Afterward, the victims were reportedly given IV fluids to recover from the physical toll of both the substances and the acts they were coerced into. One of the most damning pieces of evidence against Diddy comes from Cassie, who filed a lawsuit against him detailing her own experience at these freak-offs. In her lawsuit, she revealed the shocking and traumatic encounters that occurred during her time with Diddy. One of the first incidents she described was a disturbing encounter where Diddy allegedly hired a man and Cassie was instructed to perform intimate acts with this man while Diddy watched. This encounter allegedly lasted for multiple days, and the whole situation was framed as a kind of Wild Kings KN event. Cassie's claims didn't stop there. She accused Diddy of frequently supplying her with copious amounts of drugs, including ecstasy, KHB, ketamine, and alcohol. Cassie described how Diddy used these substances to disassociate her during these horrific experiences, making her more compliant with his demands. The aftermath of these parties, according to Cassie, was equally grueling, with her needing to undergo IV treatments to recover from the excessive use of substances. Diddy denied these claims and accused Cassie of blackmailing him, with his lawyer arguing that her demand for $30 million under the threat of writing a book about their relationship was a blatant attempt to extort him. Diddy rejected these allegations even after Cassie withdrew her initial threat. Despite her withdrawal, Cassie's lawsuit continued, with many people viewing the legal settlement as confirmation that her story had merit. The settlement raised many eyebrows and added fuel to the fire, as it was seen by some as Diddy's way of quietly dealing with the accusations. For a while, some fans believed that Diddy's behavior had likely toned down after his relationship with Cassie ended in 2018. They assumed the freak-off parties might have been an isolated incident related to his animosity toward her. However, according to Phil Pines' account, this assumption is far from accurate. He claims that Diddy's disturbing behavior not only continued after his breakup with Cassie, but may have actually escalated. Phil alleges that the so-called Wild Kings KN events were frequent and continued well into his time as Diddy's assistant, which paints a much darker picture of Diddy's alleged actions. Phil's testimony adds new layers to the story, suggesting that the freak-offs were not limited to Cassie, but were a regular part of Diddy's life. Phil further detailed how, during his time working with Diddy, he witnessed numerous women coming in and out of these parties. He recalled that some of the women were so shaken by what they had experienced at the parties that they had to be escorted out. In one instance, he described a woman who was physically trembling after a night at one of these events. She reportedly told him that she had never done anything like this before. Phil also provided an account of a disturbing incident where he allegedly saw Diddy become physically abusive toward one of the women at the party. He claimed that Diddy cursed at her and kicked her to the ground before kicking her. This kind of physical aggression was reportedly not uncommon at these events, and it paints a picture of a toxic and dangerous environment. What's even more troubling is Phil's claim that Diddy would make him procure illegal substances for these parties. According to him, the substance lists were long, and he was often tasked with buying various illegal drugs for the events. Most of the people attending these parties, he said, were young women, further compounding the disturbing nature of these gatherings. Phil's allegations are chilling, and the evidence he claims to possess, such as voice notes, text messages, and other materials, suggests that the story of Diddy's so-called freak-offs might just be the tip of the iceberg. As the public begins to learn more about what went on behind the scenes, the question remains, will this finally be enough to hold Diddy accountable for his alleged actions, or will this dark chapter continue to unfold in shocking new ways? Whatever happens, it's clear that the truth is far messier and more troubling than anyone could have anticipated. And the people who have come forward, from Cassie to Phil Pines, have exposed a side of Diddy's life that is incredibly disturbing, and the full scope of these events remains to be seen.
We had a laundry list of items that included lights, alcohol, ketamine, Molly. Those requests started to become more. A lot of times you would have him with a younger female, and there's a power dynamic there. A more impressionable girl is easier to reel in. Consent is between the people that are engaging, and I wasn't there in these situations.
To back up his claims, Phil presented receipts including voice notes of Diddy instructing him to procure substances, proving he's not making things up for attention.
And just to prove that he's not making...
Can you give me 20 Xanax, please? Hey, Phil, I need a plan B.
I remember hearing the words, "Prove your loyalty to me, King." He grabbed me by the shoulders.
It sounds like Diddy may have tried to force Phil into participating in the Wild Kings night, which wouldn't be too surprising, especially considering similar claims made by Lil Rod in his lawsuit. Lil Rod accused Diddy of allegedly touching him against his will, and when he confronted Diddy, the mogul reportedly brushed it off as horseplay. This has led many fans to believe that Phil's accusations align with a pattern of disturbing behavior they've heard about before, making his claims seem more credible. As expected, Diddy's legal team immediately jumped to his defense, denying the allegations. They argued that no matter how many lawsuits are filed, it won't change the fact that Diddy has never acted inappropriately with anyone, whether man, woman, adult, or minor. They emphasize that anyone can file a lawsuit for any reason, but the judicial process will ultimately reveal the truth. Diddy's lawyers expressed confidence that he will prevail in court. Despite these denials, Phil's claims have shocked fans, especially after he came prepared with receipts, text messages, voice notes, and video evidence. Fans were particularly taken aback by the voice notes, where Diddy allegedly gave Phil instructions about what substances to get for the parties. Phil even testified in front of a grand jury about his time working with Diddy, which added more weight to his story. One fan pointed out, if Phil told the court what he told the journalist, Diddy might be done for real. So what's your take? Do you believe Phil's comments about Diddy? Or do you think he's just chasing a payday? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.